The Inconvenient Truth About Face Masks, presented by me, Mr. L. Who am I? That's a good question. A deep philosophical one. Who am I? I'll answer that in a little bit. For now, consider me your teacher. This presentation is life or death, but to incentivize learning and participation even more, people who stay till the end will not only live, but if they participate and submit the e-worksheet that you could find behind that QR code or those hyperlinks in the bottom right corner, you will be entered into a raffle. The better the answers, the higher the score, the more raffle tickets you get, the higher the odds. Do I have your attention now? What's the prize? It's a surprise. Get it? A surprise? Tough crowd. All right, let's not waste any more time then. Let's get down to business. My thesis. What's a thesis? It is a argument or a claim. So my claim, what I'm going to present with my own evidence, my own exhibits, is that masks not only don't work, but they exacerbate disease. I'm going to say that again. Masks not only do not work, but they exacerbate disease. Now, some of you guys know what exacerbate means, but others don't. So let me do my best to explain what exacerbate means with some real-world examples. So to use exacerbate in a sentence, telling your girlfriend to calm down will only exacerbate the situation. Honestly, same thing for boyfriends and people in general. This is kind of a sexist example, if I'm going to be honest, because I've been told to calm down before, and I didn't really like it, and I turned up. So, yeah, nobody really responds well when being told to calm down. All right, so telling your girlfriend to calm down will only exacerbate the situation. And here's what that looks like. Hey, I really didn't like when hey, you know what, just calm down. Yep. Hey, I feel really passionate about this one thing. Hey, would you just calm down? Example number 2. Putting water on a grease fire exacerbates the fire and flames. Did you know that? Did you know that you should not put water on a grease fire? Did you know that oil and water don't mix? Oil fire, grease fire, don't put water on it. Let me just show you a really well done educational video by Inside Edition.
Can you believe this sudden burst of flames is the result of water being thrown on a burning frying pan? The old adage, oil and water don't mix, could not be more true.
You absolutely should never put water on a grease fire.
How dangerous can grease fires be? We took a jar filled with a little bit of water and attached it to a long pole at this test lab in Long Island, New York. Now watch what happens when we pour the water onto the fire. In an instant, the flames shoot up to the ceiling.
In your own words, what does exacerbate mean? Pretty basic definition here: to make worse, more severe, or violent. Yeah. Exacerbate, more violent. Yep. This right here is what exacerbate looks like on a graph. This is what it looks like on a graph. Where the X is, that's where exacerbates is. It's a verb. So the X represents a noun that is exacerbating something, right? So for an example, when your significant other is upset, what 2 words should you never say to them? That's what this graph looks like. Calm down, right? So the girlfriend kind of upset, and then calm down happens, and now you guys are exes, or vice versa. Boyfriend kind of upset about something, girlfriend says calm down. Either way, it's not the right thing to say. When someone is worked up about something, dude, they're worked up for a reason. Don't tell them to calm down. That's water on the grease fire, dude. Let's keep on moving here. If there is a grease fire in your kitchen, what should you not throw on it? Look, if I'm sounding redundant, it's because sometimes us educators, we have to literally repeat things over and over for it to stick with you guys, right? Over and over. We gotta over and over. We gotta get this message to stick. So, all right, you get it. Exacerbate. You learned a new word today. Maybe you already knew it. Good for you. Now you know it even better. So, little grease fire in the kitchen, and then, obviously fire. First thing that comes to mind, throw water on it, right? Not be calm and assess the situation, but throw water on it. That's the wrong. We've been all conditioned to do the wrong thing. The right thing to do is assess the situation. What kind of fire is that? Can I just easily pick up the pan and throw it in the pool? You know what I mean? Can I do something like that? Is there really any danger right now? Is it going to burn out? But when you see a fire, you get nervous and you rush, and sometimes you do the wrong thing. So, little grease fire, you panic, did the wrong thing, and burn down the house. That's what that big spike is now. Flames went all the way to the ceiling and then burned down the whole house. So my point is sometimes things aren't always as they seem. What's the moral of what's the theme most consistent with Scooby-Doo? What's the lesson at the end of pretty much every Scooby-Doo? You could say maybe looks are deceiving. You could say there's always a bad guy behind the mask. The boogeyman isn't like the boogeyman you thought it was. It was actually just a man hiding behind a mask. Yeah, something like that. Enter me. Who am I? Well, I'm a master teacher. Sounds kind of arrogant, right? Master teacher. Like, who calls themselves a master teacher? Well, I have a master's degree. All right, that's why I call myself a master teacher. I have a master's in education. So I'm a master educator. Here's some proof. 4.0. All A's, baby. Perfect scores for 2 years. Yep, that's me. I demonstrated mastery within my masters. Am I perfect? No. No, far from it. But am I the Tiger Woods of teaching? I think so. But am I perfect in real life? No, absolutely not. I'm a very flawed, fallible individual. Guilty. Yeah, I've been arrested for some stuff. This stuff, actually.
Man arrested after a fight involving masks at ASU Gamage over the weekend.
I'm a bad boy. That's me. Man arrested after refusing to wear face mask. Look at me. Earned my first stripe. Bad to the bone. Look, for the sake of time, I can't really dive into the details about my arrest. All you really need to know for the sake of this presentation is that I beat the charges. It's not illegal to not wear a mask. And where it said that I assaulted ASU employees, total lies. Total lies. Proved it in court. Historical record. So if you would like to know more and you would like to dive into the details, my personal true crime story, you can get it here. So yeah, master teacher. Not only does he talk the talk, but he walks the walk. Master teacher. You know what? Call me Master Splinter. You're my Ninja Turtle. No, actually, you know what? Call me Master Poe. And you can be my young grasshopper. My young grasshopper.
You are the new student. Come closer.
Old man, how is it that you hear these things?
Young man, how is it that you do not?
What subject, real quick, what subject do you think I teach? Any guesses? Any guesses? Hands, please. Hands, please. No, not Kung Fu. No. No, not the art of chess boxing. No, no. I'm an English teacher. English. English language arts. Yep. In other words, I'm an expert reader. You can literally call me an expert in it. I literally have a degree in literature. Literally an expert. And I'm not trying to boast or brag, but being an expert reader is my superpower. I have a superpower. Not trying to boast or brag. I have a superpower. And that is the fact that I'm an expert reader. I tell my students, if you could read Shakespeare, you could read anything. You could read the world. In English, at least. Let me emphasize the importance of reading real quick, okay? And I consolidated it into a simple math equation. Are you ready for this? Ready for this? Reading equals power. If knowledge is power and you become more knowledgeable by reading, then reading equals power. Basic math. I get it. Ignorance is bliss. Some things you don't want to know. But then there's other things that you just have to know. And that's where I come in. Thank goodness you have me. Thank goodness. So why am I emphasizing all this reading, right? Why am I emphasizing this so much? It's because we're about to jump into the literature, right? They always talk about, oh, the science, the literature. Oh, you know, cite your sources. Dude, this is literally my profession. This is my job. I assign assignments and require my students to cite their sources, and I have to, you know, make sure they're credible sources and all this stuff. Like, this is literally my profession. So if I'm emphasizing stuff for beating a dead horse, it's because I got to get this to stick with you, all right? It has to stick forever. It has to be sticky, dude. All right, moving on. So as far as my credibility goes, I'm a master teacher, and I am also a recovering germaphobe. It's not something I really like admitting to or letting people know about me, if I'm being quite frank. I feel like this is an invasion of privacy, as a matter of fact. I don't like you knowing about that. But I have to tell you about that. I have to come clean about that so you can understand where I'm coming from a little bit better, right? When you're germophobic, you're pretty much an expert on germs, microbes, viral loads, and all that stuff you've been hearing about lately. Like, pretty much, I'm a virologist, just without the degree. I'm pretty much like the Jimi Hendrix of germs. Self-taught. I've been knowing about this stuff since about the 3rd grade, believe it or not. I read a book on the subject. It was a scratch and sniff, and honestly, it traumatized me. I was too young for that book. Too young. They put the scratch and sniff in there, and that really made the world of difference. Literally for the next 15 years until I was 24. Until I was 24 years old. I was ruined. I was ruined, dude. So for 15 years, I've been cognizant, conscious of germs. I was a practicing germaphobe since about the age of 9. I have 15 years experience OCD, okay? 15 years experience with that crippling OCD. So yeah, I know what I'm talking about, just a little bit. All right. Lastly, this is my last credential. I fight forest fires. Yeah, that's my other profession. You say, what's that have to do with face masks? How about I know a thing or two about prevention, containment, putting out spot fires, holding the line, and all the other variables that exacerbate inflammation and lead to hyperbolic spread. You know, I'd give you a scorecard about how good I am at fighting fires, but the amount of trees I've saved is incalculable. You can't calculate certain things. Some things are incalculable. But one thing's for certain, dude. I've saved many, many, many tree lives, dude. Many. Maybe if we have some extra time, I could tell you about the time sometimes I say literally, and you guys are going to think I'm not meaning literally. No, I literally went head to head with a 100-acre inferno with one bum leg and no gloves on for 16 hours. Yeah, it was insane, dude. It was insane. Maybe if we have some time, I'll tell you about it. Spoiler alert, I'm still breathing. Can't say that about the other guy. Shout out to the backup. Shout out to the people that came and replaced me. They finished the job. They did a great job. They did a really great job. So yeah, let this presentation be another example of me holding the line. Because I see a tsunami-size wave of inflammation on the horizon. Call me the Watchtower. Now, with no further ado, let's jump into my argument, my claim, my thesis. And believe it or not, this message is urgent. The rhetoric on the news lately has been to bring back mask mandates.
We're having a debate this morning about that very thing, really. A debate about whether mask wearing should be returned to be mandatory here in the UK. Restrictions have been lifted. And I understand you even suggest people who come to your concerts wear them for their own protection.
But that's Gene Simmons. He's a rock star. Of course I trust him when it comes to infectious diseases. So what is my claim? My claim is that masks exacerbate disease. Masks make things worse. And they're talking about bringing back masks at during the first wave of what they're calling a triple-demic. This is a very urgent message I got to get out there. So masks exacerbate disease, all right? I can't just say that, though. I have to back it up, right? In the court of law, you make a claim, and then you have to provide evidence, proof. You get experts to testify, right? All this is called discovery evidence. So I'm going to lay down all of my discovery evidence for you, what I've discovered, all right? And perhaps the first most important thing that we must understand is that the coronavirus survives on surfaces. This is one of the biggest, maybe, misconceptions of the entire pandemic. They think respiratory, it just survives in the air magically. It just sits there in the air. I'm not saying it doesn't, but you guys forgot the whole part where it survives on surfaces, or a lot of you guys forgot that part or didn't know that part, weren't told about that part. So Exhibit A is proof that the virus survives on surfaces. Let's see here. Common question: can the coronavirus survive on surfaces? It is not certain how long the virus that causes COVID-19 survives on surfaces, but it seems likely to behave like other coronaviruses. A recent review of the survival of human coronaviruses on surfaces found large variability, ranging from 2 hours to 9 days. You don't say. You don't say. Here, let's see what this Inside Edition investigation has to say.
We found lots of bacteria on all the masks.
Oh no!
Especially this multicolored one right here that you use every day.
Yeah.
That one has a bacteria count of 680 million. A normal count would be about 10,000. We found 4 types of bacteria on your masks as a whole, right? But on this one right here, specific kind of bacteria can cause some nasty skin infections. It can also lead to pneumonia.
Oh God, oh no. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Quick little math session. 680 million. That is damn near a billion bacteria on that lady's face mask. Okay. Whew. All right, so he said the regular count should have been 10,000, but we don't know what he's talking about a face mask. That's obviously not the regular count. So let's just compare it to money, right? I did a quick Google search and found that your average dollar bill has about 3,000 bacteria on it. So to find the multiple, how many more times dirtier is a face mask than a dollar bill? If you want to find the multiple, you got to do the opposite and divide. Work things backwards. So you divide that by 3,000. And then you're going to, the next number, when I press equal here, is going to show me the multiple. How many more times more filthy is the face mask than a $10 bill? Shout out to Alexander Hamilton. Ready for this? Whoa. That is not a good sign, guys. That is not a good sign, guys. Oh my goodness, dude. Let's round that up, dude. Oh my gosh, dude. I was warning you, dude. I was warning you, dude. Oh my gosh, dude.
That's how many times. That's how many times more biohazardous. And yes, face masks are biohazardous by definition. Face masks are hundreds of thousands of times, or they can be. Face masks can be hundreds of thousands of times filthier than random dollar bills. And I know what a lot of people are saying. Well, she was wearing a cloth face mask and she probably didn't wash the cloth. All right, fair. But if that's the case, you know what I mean? How many pathogens do you think are on this fire crotch's face mask? How many pathogens do you think are on that baby? On this pantless fire crotches face mask? I bet you it is less. I bet you it is less. But would you touch that thing and then lick your finger? Nah, you definitely wouldn't. Would you pick your nose after you did it? I hope not, dude. I hope not. Or what about this guy's? What about this guy's face mask? He's definitely following all the rules. He's definitely following all the rules. Okay, let's make this visual. So here is a map of the United States. Now imagine it is one gigantic face mask, okay? Now, what is the population of the United States? 332 million approximately. Okay, 332 million approximately. So if this is that girl's face mask, we got to double the population of the United States. So imagine the United States as you know it, double the population, and that's about how many million bacteria were on that average girl's face mask. Okay. So now let's imagine, now people think of money as dirty, right? So let's see, like, ugh, dollar bills, ew. Now, before we get scared of using cash money, because there's microbes on it, of course there's microbes on it. Before we get scared, let's think about this. Now, imagine the United States map is a $10 bill. There are 3,000 microbes on that $10 bill. 3,000 living things on that entire map. I mean $10 bill. Only 3,000. That was my high school. So I'm imagining for a second my high school being dispersed across the greater 48 states. Dude, that's 60 people per state, roughly. Dude, if that were the case, we would say the United States is desolate. We would pretty much say it's vacant. That's like nearly I Am Legend numbers. So don't get scared of money. It's all about perspective. Money is pretty clean, especially relative to the thing that you put on your face. This is essential to know. This is the most important, most critical thing to understand. You know, we were told it's a respiratory virus, it's in the air, all this stuff. You need to understand it survives on surfaces. And people think, oh, well, it's on the inside of the mask. It's on the inside. Because I'll be like, dude, you touch your mask. You touch it constantly. Dude, all you guys wearing masks, I see you guys all the time touching it constantly. Yeah, but it's on the outside of the mask. I'm protected. Dude, that's not plastic on your face. Yeah, maybe if it was plastic, but then you wouldn't be able to breathe at all. This is what actually it looks like. And that's just one breath. That's just one breath. One breath and your whole mask is saturated. It's a gas. It's gaseous. You saturate your masks. You touch your mask. Anyway, so yes, it survives on surfaces. Okay. You say, oh well, they're talking about cloth masks. Okay. Okay, that's a cloth mask. But this is a man wearing two double surgical masks, and it's the same thing. He's in a cloud of his own breath. So I just want to show you visuals, right? So it survives on surfaces. All right, disease survives on surfaces. After one breath, your whole mask is saturated with whatever the virus is. Doesn't matter if it's COVID, corona, strep, whatever. It's going to be on the mask. Doesn't matter what kind of mask, it's going to be all on it. Ever hear of the triangle of death? What this means is if your hands are dirty, if your hands are not clean, don't put your hands anywhere near this area. Why? Why do you say? Because it's the front door to your temple. Your body is your temple, and that is the gate. And so if your hands are dirty, even if you're wearing a face mask, that don't work. They do nothing, actually. They make it worse. They exacerbate disease and spread. Even if you touch your face mask with dirty fingers, you're still bringing the enemy, the invader, to your front doorstep, right? If one touch of the mask equals one pick of the nose, then on average, who do you think touches the area called the triangle of death more? Maskers or non-maskers? I just want you to think about it. Don't answer this question yet. The answer will be revealed to you by the end of this presentation. There are going to be people who are like, not me, I never touch my mask. Dude, I bet you didn't even don and doff your mask properly. Odds are that you reused your mask, you touched it, and you didn't even do it correctly. There's a whole protocol that no one's been taught. Medical standards and practices for, surgeons and whatnot. All right, Exhibit B. Scientific article from the British Medical Journal. All right, this is a scientific article from the BMJ about 4 years before the pandemic. All right, a cluster randomized trial of cloth masks compared with medical masks in healthcare workers. This is very important to note. The data these scientists are collecting are on healthcare workers, people who are well versed in contamination, contagion, bacteria, infection, disease, all this stuff. These are probably some of the most hygienic people on planet Earth, right? They know a lot. And so they follow all the protocol to the best of their ability. They literally, that's their job. They're professionals, okay? So the charts and data at the end aren't going to show people like you and me or kids or the people of Walmart and the outcomes of them wearing cloth masks or medical masks. No. The data is going to reflect the outcomes in healthcare workers. Very important. All right, I know this is kind of dry content right now. Bear with me. There will be a game coming up, and there will be a prize at the end. Let's not forget about that. All right, cluster randomized trial of cloth masks. And automatically you're saying, okay, it's cloth masks versus medical masks. Okay. Well, this is in a very controlled setting. 3 groups, cluster randomized. All right. Cluster randomization was used because the outcome of interest was respiratory infectious diseases, where prevention of one infection in an individual can prevent a chain of subsequent transmission in closed settings. That's why they chose cluster randomization, because the outcome of interest was respiratory infectious diseases. And this is key, where prevention of one infection in an individual can prevent a chain of subsequent transmission. Okay? This is very important stuff. This is so important. So 3 groups. There is the medical mask group, the cloth mask group, and the control arm. Now check this out. So the standard practice is autonomy. How nice. Standard practice was used as control because IRB I don't know what IRB means, but I'm assuming it means like the legal department. The legal department deemed it unethical to ask participants to not wear a mask. They thought it was unethical. So in the control arm, which should be no mask at all, it actually should be 0 masks, because that would be a real control, right? Well, they thought it wasn't ethical. How backwards did they get that? How backwards? So let's just fast forward to the results. Conclusions. The results caution against the use of cloth masks. Moisture retention, reuse of cloth masks, and poor filtration may result in increased risk of infection. As a precautionary measure, cloth masks should not be recommended for healthcare workers, particularly in high-risk situations. Would you call a pandemic a high-risk situation? Yeah, I certainly would. And yet they literally mandated masks, and cloth masks is what a lot of people used. And so now you see, medical masks and stuff like that, right? You see medical masks. Here's the thing. So let's look at the results real quick. Now, I'm going to ask you to be my young grasshopper during this next part of the presentation. It is perhaps the driest part of this whole presentation, and I'm going to beat a dead horse, and I'm going to be very redundant, repetitive, but I ask that you just please follow along and listen, because we're going to be making inferences. We're going to dive into the data. If you want to just skip ahead, that's fine. That's fine. You could use this link right here, and it'll take you to the full deep dive analysis. But I do think this part of the presentation is very important to understand before moving forward. And there will be questions on the participation worksheet that correspond to this segment of the presentation. This is an exercise in drawing inferences. That's a very important skill to have in life, is to be presented with data and then have the capacity to dive into it and make inferences, analyze, create meaning from. Let's talk about what we know. So these results right here are all each category: the cloth mask category, control, medical mask. They're all professionals, okay? So CRI means chronic respiratory illness. All of them didn't do so good. We have to take the control group. The control group should have been maskless people. They thought, oh, it's unethical. So really, we got to take this whole thing with a grain of salt, right? We have to take this whole thing, every middle gray, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, because we don't know what these people, they were autonomous. They said you could wear a mask, you decide not to wear a mask, right? So even though we could take the numbers with a grain of salt, the fact that they were autonomous in itself, we show a decline, right? They weren't forced. This black bar right here, the cloth mask, this was unethical, actually. This was the unethical thing, is making people wear cloth masks. This was the unethical thing to do. As you could see, this was the actual unethical thing. This is the proof. Why was it unethical? Because it put them in danger, the most danger. The fact that just a little bit of autonomy brought it down is proof. It's proof enough, right? Then the argument, the people will say, well, what about medical masks? All right, well, that's good. All right, that's fair, right? What about medical masks? Are the people that are wearing the medical mask touching their medical masks all the time? Yes, they are. I see it all the time. So these numbers don't reflect that group of people. All these numbers reflect only the best of the best. And Control group, just ignore it. It's not even there, right? It's not even there. But it does indicate that people not wearing masks, even for a little bit of time, makes a big difference. That's what it does tell us. What if they were not doctors and nurses? What would this chart look like? Because that's the only data we have, is from people who know what they're doing, people who understand germ spread. What would the cloth mask section look like to, say, the population at large? The people of Walmart. Would it be, instead of 8, would this be 800%? Instead of 8%, would this be 800%? Would the bar be through the roof? And I have a sneaky suspicion that it would be the same for medical masks. Why? Because people reuse their medical masks a lot. That's why. I know for a fact that medical workers know how to put on PPE with more care than the general population. So because I could infer that, then I could safely assume that the medical mask group would also go up. And then what would happen to the control group if it was just an actual control group of people not wearing masks? Dude, there's lots to be learned from just this one scientific study. There's a lot to be gleaned from this one scientific study. And once you make some inferences and extrapolate that information out and apply it en masse to the general population at large across the globe, well, I promise you, dude, I promise you, the results will be horrific. Here's the thing. If this right here was a real control group, right? And the control group was no mask wearing at all, it feasibly could be down here. It feasibly could be the lowest of all of them, but we don't know. The masks, them going in and out, wearing a cloth mask here, a medical mask there, could have been the result of this number. That's where the grain of salt comes in. But what we do know is that the fact that they weren't required to wear at least the cloth mask brought the number down. Or they were just allowed to breathe and do what they wanted, right? So that's a good sign. It's a really good sign. And if you ask me, the reason why the medical masks probably did the best is because they were disposable, right? The cloth masks, they're going to get reused more. They're going to be worn for longer amounts of times. The medical masks, well, you throw that on real quick, you throw it off, throw it in the trash. Personally, I don't like waste. And a lot of these face masks, these disposable ones, are ending up in the oceans. And don't even get me started on that topic, man. That will be a whole other presentation on its own, man.
Exhibit C, 2 expert witnesses on PPE. So if you don't believe me, if you don't trust me, please, can you trust these 2 beautiful, heroic women who are experts on the topic? They wrote this great article, very informative. They're doing everything they can to get the word out there. They've done a great job. We'll reference this upside down triangle later. Just know that I didn't make that up. It's coming from them. It's coming from OSHA. It's coming from the pros. But enough with me. Enough with my voice for right now. Let's take a little recess from my voice and listen to these 2 heroic females.
During surgery, if a surgeon or a nurse or an anesthesiologist is wearing an N95 or even a surgical mask or an ear loop mask in that surgical suite, if they touch that mask one time, they have to either exit the room or a nurse aide has to help them change it out without touching it. The second you touch your mask, not only are you cross-contaminating that mask, but you are reducing its likelihood to control a hazard. During the H1N1 outbreak and the SARS outbreak, studies were done You can look at the BMJ Open studies and multiple RCT studies with metadata analysis that showed cloth masks can filter close to 0% when controlling health hazards associated with airborne infectious diseases. Mask on children is quite the slippery slope. Look at your children. They're confused. They come home lethargic. They're frustrated. You may see variances in their mood. It's because when you are wearing a mask, it makes you tired. It makes you tired because masks have the ability to lower your oxygen content by up to 20%. I say up to because, again, you cannot make claims on every single mask because there are so many different types. But children in masks is absolutely dangerous. It's dangerous also because children rely on proper oxygen content for their brain development. And if you are impeding oxygen on a daily basis for our youth, you are disrupting the development of the front part of the brain, the rear brain, and you can look into studies by Dr. Larry Pilevsky, who's done talks on this, that talk about repetitive oxygen deprivation can impede that brain development. Children are the biggest victim of these mask mandates. The bacteria that is housed inside of masks is bad. But when we look to our children, if anyone has children, you know they're very dirty. I've talked to a lot of teachers that during recess, when they are allowed to take off the masks, they see their masks sitting on their table, and they are coated with fluids, blood, and for lack of a better term, boogers. You are going to see, and we have seen, an increased risk of illnesses that actually resemble COVID symptoms, but they're not COVID. They're respiratory illnesses like bacterial pneumonia and even fungal infections. So in the attempt to try to protect people from this respiratory illness, we are causing other respiratory illnesses. We've had schools that have outbreaks of strep throat. We've had people that have had unexplained illnesses that actually mimic fungal infections. And people are negligent. Some doctors are negligent in diagnosing what the root cause is here. It's prolonged mask wearing and not changing out this mask as you should.
OSHA's stance on respiratory protection, whether it's masks, whether it's surgical masks, whether it's N95s or true respirators, as far as a CAPR, airline supplied respirators, PAPR, whatever it might be, OSHA has what's called a respiratory protection program. And this standard was written in 1979 in response to the fact that many employees and contractors were wearing their own homemade masks or their own face coverings, because they were being exposed to paint fumes or dusts or whatever hazard it might be in their working environment that was a nuisance to them or an irritant to their respiratory linings. And so they were just wearing their own homemade whatever, right? So what we found is that by allowing people to work in their own homemade respiratory protection, we were actually causing a greater hazard. We were causing people to work with reduced oxygen intake, reduced carbon dioxide output, and in addition, we were really finding that we were stressing the cardiopulmonary systems of these employees. Because when you cover the mouth and nose and you exert physical energy during your work, during your tasks, whatever it might be, you're really stressing the cardiopulmonary system because you change the way that you breathe. You have to forcibly inhale and forcibly exhale. That taxes the heart. It taxes the lungs. And we have given people heart attacks by allowing them to work with their mouth and nose covered with absolutely no regulation, no oversight, no medical oversight, no work rest cycles, things like that. So OSHA actually created the respiratory protection standard to prevent people from working with their mouth and nose covered and exerting physical energy because of the greater hazard that it creates. The maximum amount of time that you can wear a surgical mask in a hospital setting or a surgical center is 2 hours. That's max. Right? And even then, they have to have work rest cycles. They have to properly don and doff them by the ear loops. You can't just grab because you contaminate. It's called fomite transmission. Your hands have bacteria on them from what you're touching in the environment around you. So when you touch that face mask, you now breathe in that pathogen or that contaminant through fomite transmission. When you have a facial covering on for an extended period of time, it creates a very moist environment, which creates and breeds bacteria very quickly. So when doctors, nurses, construction workers, whatever industry or occupation, employees are required to wear masks or respirators, they are told and trained on when to take them off. Work rest cycles are very important, how to properly don and doff them, and how to properly clean and sanitize them, because we know that this amount of bacteria building up on the inside of a mask that we keep rebreathing is going to cause things like bacterial pneumonia. Perioral dermatitis is a big one that we started seeing, and that's what, you know, some people jokingly refer to as maskne, the blistering, right, the outbreaks around the face, on the skin, the red marks, but it's very serious actually. It's a form of staph. It's a bacterial staph infection, and it's very serious. It's nothing to laugh about, and it's 100% because of the extended and prolonged mask wearing in a bacterial-ridden environment. I mean, how stupid, how incredibly dangerous. And yet, we're just all, you know, doing it as if it's, you know, the thing to do. In addition, we're causing a lot of perioral dental issues in the mouth. Dentists are reporting a very high level of bacterial disorders, diseases, bacterial infections because of prolonged mask wearing. And that doesn't even get into the bad breath. It doesn't take very long wearing a mask and you have very bad breath. Well, what is that? It's bacteria. But when we can't exhale properly and we can't get that out, right, to be diluted in the air and the environment around us, that's a problem. We're trapping it in and we're rebreathing it, which causes the bacterial infections to just skyrocket. When I started hearing the schools start talking about putting children in masks in order to be able to go back to school, I thought it was a joke. I thought, who in their right mind would put a mask on a child, would cover a child's mouth and nose all day long? I couldn't believe it. I actually thought no parent would ever do that. Well, let's fast forward now. They're all doing this. Everybody, all these children are walking around in masks. So I started standing up and speaking very loudly against this, saying, whoa, 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 whoa. This is not okay. From a health perspective, from a medical perspective, from a scientific perspective, this is not only not okay, this is egregiously wrong, and it's incredibly dangerous. The problem with children is that children don't necessarily say anything. They just suffer in silence. And any medical professional will tell you that. Kids don't say much. They don't complain about it. They just crash. And what's happening is the body is adjusting to the signs and symptoms of oxygen deprivation, but that doesn't mean the damage is not still occurring. So this is a huge problem because what we are creating in our children is a very unhealthy population. When kids are not getting enough oxygen, they're not learning at the correct level. They're not absorbing the information. They're not able to process properly. Our bodies are incredibly sensitive to oxygen saturation levels. So kids are being put at great risk for neurological disorders and diseases. When the body does not have enough oxygen, the immune system is not functioning optimally and properly. This is a well-known medical fact. So we are creating an entire generation of young children who are immunocompromised. They're not developing the social cues and social skills that they need to function in the world around them as adults. And we are going to be creating a very unhealthy young generation. We're going to start seeing neurological diseases and disorders and cancers, which can only thrive in those environments of low oxygen and oxygen deficiency very young. So I'm very concerned. And this is why I started standing up. This is why I got involved as an activist in the first place, because I was so concerned about our children.
Pop quiz. What is cross-contamination? What is fomite transmission? So I've shown you evidence that predates the pandemic. I've shown you expert witnesses, their testimonies that was recorded during the pandemic. And now we are going to look at Exhibit D, a post-mask mandate review, statistics and scientific analysis. Now, what do you think the results are going to be? So we have information that predates, and now we're going to look at the aftermath. What do you think the aftermath is going to add up to? Correlation between mask compliance and COVID-19 outcomes in Europe. All right. Here's some charts and stuff. Let's get to the highlighted material. These findings indicate that countries with high levels of mask compliance
did not perform better than those with low usage. So the countries that had better compliance performed worse than the countries with low mask usage. The correlation between mask usage and deaths was positive and significant. You don't say. You don't say. Conclusions. The lack of negative correlations between mask usage and COVID-19 cases and deaths suggests that the widespread use of masks at a time when an effective intervention was most needed, in other words, during the strong 2020-2021 autumn-winter peak, was not able to reduce COVID-19 transmission. Moreover, the moderate positive correlation between mask usage and deaths in Western Europe also suggests that the universal use of masks may have had harmful, unintended consequences. One more time. The universal use of masks may have had harmful, unintended consequences. Did it say anything about cloth masks or medical masks or this type of mask or that type of mask? No. Universal, that's what it says. It says universal use of masks may have had harmful, unintended consequences. What was that last slide? Correlation between mask usage and deaths was positive and significant. Does it sound like masks exacerbated disease? Did it look like that? Did it look like spikes? Yeah, it looked like death spikes. Respiratory disease plus masks equals death spike.
Seen so many increases of bacterial respiratory infections in our private practices over the last 12 months, it's not even funny. We've seen so many fungal infections because people are improperly wearing masks. Whenever we get fitted for our mask, because I also am a part owner of 2 surgical centers here in the greater St. Louis area, when we're in our surgical centers doing procedures, the doctors are wearing the mask so that we don't spit into an open wound. You see, people have this false idea that doctors wear a mask in an operating room to stop a virus from going to somewhere. Not at all. The human mouth is the most bacterial-ridden mouth of any mammal on the planet. It's even more bacterial-ridden than a pig's mouth would be. So if we spit saliva into an open wound, that's going to cause infection. So it has nothing to do with viruses. And again, study after study after study has shown that wearing a mask has more harm than good. You look at the research that was just done out of Germany. There was a huge study released out of Germany, and what they looked at was 25,000 students that were in school. 25,000. And they found that 68% of those kids in the German study had some type of impairment. I mean, everything from headaches to passing out.
Forgive me, but for the sake of time, I'm going to skip ahead.
I don't think it takes a lot of common sense to figure out that if you obstruct your breathing, that it's going to have a detrimental effect. For example, there was a court case in Germany where I believe it was bank employees were required to wear masks for the whole shift, like 8 hours a day. And there was a doctor who testified with evidence from, I believe, EEG studies that showed actual brain damage as a result of that. And that case was successful.
Wake up. Did you hear what he just said, or did it go in one ear and out the other? The man speaking right there is a psychiatrist. He said, I don't think it takes much common sense to figure out that wearing a mask and obstructing your breathing and your oxygen for long periods of time would cause damage to your brain. As a matter of fact, there was a case in Germany where a bank employee was required to wear a face mask for 8 hours a day, like most people across the whole globe, right? the typical person that followed orders. Long story short, a doctor testified in that case and showed evidence, proof, EEGs of the brain, and it showed brain damage. It's just a mask, dude. Just get over yourself. It's just a mask. No, you're making children wear face masks unnecessarily, and they have developing brains. When you get a master's in education, there's textbooks I had to read involving mental development, adolescent, pre-adolescent, the stages, all this stuff. You're damaging the children.
Let's run some quick numbers. All right, so 8-hour days, 40-hour work weeks, and then so you times the 40-hour work week by, say, 50 weeks in a year. What's the answer? They say you could survive a month without food, a week without water, 2 minutes without oxygen. 2 minutes, like for your average person. Let's just say 5 minutes. Oh, but you're breathing. You can still breathe through the mask. Yeah, it's different, dude. It's different. You're not expelling what you need to expel, and you're not taking in what you need to take in. The answer is 2,000 hours deprivation. 2,000 hours of oxygen deprivation. It's just a mask, no big deal. Just do what you're told. Oh, okay. And get stupider like you? No, no thank you. No thank you. I'm already stupid enough. I don't need to get stupider.
Why do you care? I heard this so many times, just a mask, no big deal. Why do you care so much? Want me to play all that back for you? So what you see on the screen right here, in case I forgot to mention, when I was arrested, yeah, I beat the charges. So it says "When like me," that QR code, it sends you to a legal course. Look, please, guys, I beg you, sue whoever you need to sue. Let's play a game. Okay, I know this slide's a little creepy, right? I don't like it at all, to be honest, but since I know a lot of people out there operate around fear, right? Fear is what motivates their actions. I gotta put some fear into you, okay? This is life and death, okay? Maybe you think you're all right, right? You'll be all right, and you probably will be all right. But other people won't. So you have to make the right decision, okay? So the game we're about to play is called Who is the Super Spreader? And this is Exhibit F. Who is the super spreader? Place your bets. The footage you are about to watch is real discovery evidence. This is real court record. These are the two witnesses that testified against me. One of them was wearing a mask, the other was not wearing a mask. Ironically, it was the one that wasn't wearing the mask that called the cops on me for not wearing a mask. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to the topic. Your objective is to count how many times each person touches their mouth or nose area. And remember, one touch of the face mask is equal to one pick of the nose or touch of the mouth.
And so I hear her say, "Help!"
Grab her at all?
I'm like pretty positive I saw.
And what did this guy look like?
But who's the right word?
All right, pause. I counted 6. Let's
Let's play that back one more time.
And so I hear her say,
1,
help.
2,
I'm
3,
pretty positive I saw it.
4, 5, 6, 7. Wow, 7 actually. But we'll just say 6 because one of those was like a double tap, right? One of them was like a double tap. So let's just count that as 6, even though it probably was technically 7. So 6, all right, 6 times 12 because the interview with the police officer was 5 minutes long, and 5 minutes goes into 60, 12 times. So that's 72 touches in an hour that she's cross-contaminating and putting herself at risk even through fomite transmission. And if we extrapolate that out even more, she worked an 8-hour shift. That's nearly 600 times.
They have to properly down and doff them by the ear loops. You can't just grab because you contaminate. It's called fomite transmission. Your hands have bacteria on them from what you're touching in the environment around you. So when you touch that face mask, you now breathe in that pathogen or that contaminant through fomite transmission.
Now let's go to the person who started all this, the person who got me arrested for not wearing a face mask. I mean, I wish she was wearing a face mask because I don't mean to put her on blast, and I can't cover your face to protect you because I have to prove a point. What point am I trying to prove? That you didn't touch your face at all. You didn't touch your nose at all, except for right. Boom, right there. Right there. She touches her, she's about to make up a story. It's true, I wasn't wearing a face mask. But what do people do when they lie? They touch their nose. They touch their nose. And so she's about to, this is the very beginning of her story. She's about to make up a story. So she's about to scratch her nose. Look at this. Why do people touch their noses when they lie? Signs of lying and body language. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, besides that one touch, we're going to count it. We'll count that one as one touch, okay. But let's just fast forward. Let's just fast forward. Let's see. Does she touch her face at all? No, she's not touching it. Why isn't she picking her nose or touching her face right now? Why isn't she doing that? I just don't know. I don't get it. I thought people always just pick their nose and touch their face. I mean, some do. But I guess if there's no reason to, then you're not going to do it, right? Unless there's a little itch or a tickle or any kind of discomfort, then you just generally don't touch your face at all, right? Interesting. Yep, still hasn't touched her face at all. She's just, saying that I threw her and crushed her and all this stuff, when really I was just like, girl, calm down. She exploded, obviously, as you can see from the mascaras, and whatnot. Messy hair, all that stuff, that was from her. She literally jumped on me, grabbed me. Man. But I didn't press charges on her, but then she presses charges on me and I get arrested. And my face makes the news. Yeah, that's the true story. If you want to know more about the true story, what actually happened in the theater, I wrote a very offensive book called The Great Offense. Even the price was meant to offend. But if what they say is true, knowledge is power, then I promise you I'm giving you at least $69 of power with this book, dude. I actually packed it full of references, dude. I used the fact that it's an ebook as an opportunity, dude. I have hyperlinks, references, additional resources. Dude, it's jam-packed. Easter eggs.
So yeah, let's do the math. Let's get back to business, do some math. Okay, so she touched her face one time. Yep, she did touch her face one time. Why did she touch her face? Big asterisks. Let's read the fine print. The tiny fine print. The only reason she even scratched her nose and got a tally at all is because she was about to engage in a lie. Otherwise, she wouldn't have even touched her nose. So it could be 0. So the masker could have 7, technically, and And the non-masker could technically have 0. So it'd be 7 against 0, the differential between the two. But I'm going to give each side the benefit of the doubt, right? Each side is getting the benefit of the doubt. Let's just do the numbers on that. So, boom, that's 12 touches an hour. That's 60, pardon me, that's 96 touches per 8-hour shift. And we could keep on doing the math. We times that by 3,000 audience members, you know what I mean? During about a 4-hour performance, and we can see what those numbers look like. And then I can give you a whole lesson on exponential curves. But I think you get my point. I mean, at this point, I certainly hope you do.
So who is the super spreader? Who was the super spreader? Who are the super spreaders? Who is, was, are the super spreaders? Correct. This one. Maskers are the super spreaders. People are saying, yeah, no big deal, man. Not many people wear masks anymore. Don't worry about it. It's over. Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. Is it over? This is the question. Is it over? This article, this was from April. This is from springtime, earlier 2022. Is it over? Well, that's a really good question, because 6 months later, right? 6 months later, or something like that, approximately, Oregon Health Authority extended their mask mandate. Okay. Interesting. This is when I was living in Oregon and went to Columbia Memorial Hospital. The date was October 14th, 2022. Literally 3 years after the start of COVID-19. COVID-19, the 19 comes from 2019. That was the beginning. So 3 years later, it still wasn't over. And I was denied medical care because I was not wearing my mask properly. I kid you not. Now, I'll spare you the time. You could watch this video on your own time. Links here if you need it. I'm really just trying to go in and get my leg checked out. Even hospitals are doing the wrong thing. Do I need to go back, I don't know, 100 slides and show you? It said, we do not recommend healthcare workers wear masks in hospital setting. So what do you think that would mean for patients who are untrained? We shouldn't be doing it either. We're just going to be making things dirtier. Why? Because we touch. We touch. It's on our face, we touch. Didn't I show you in the video who is the super spreader? When you wear a mask, you touch your mask often. You don't even know that you do it sometimes. We're making the world dirtier with masks, more biohazardous with masks. And under the guise of protection. It's a lie. It's a freaking lie, dude. So the question is it over? Now, I truly hope that it is, but it's not. On the very first day of January 2023, we're in the year 2023 now. On the first day of the new year, I went to the grocery store and there was a sizable proportion of people wearing face masks still. I would say probably 10%. Honestly, about 10%, okay? Among this 10% of people was this one Asian, I'm assuming Chinese. She looked Chinese to me. Why she gotta be Chinese, huh? Why she gotta be Chinese? Well, you'll see in a second. I identified her nationality for a reason. Old Asian lady. Double masking. And her mask was filthy. Her mask was filthy, guys. Both of them. And then I see her grab it and pull it down. Not for any other reason that I could tell, other than she just needed a better breath of air. So she pulled one of the masks down. And you could say, well, she's an old woman. She's an old woman. She's making herself more vulnerable to other people's germs by wearing the mask because she's touching the mask, and that's called fomite transmission. She's bringing any pathogens, any contaminants directly to the triangle of death on her face. Not to mention, I'm sure there's about 1 billion bacteria on both of those masks. So if she has any kind of pre-existing health condition, I promise you, wearing that mask is not doing her any favors. It's probably, actually, it's not probably, I know it's exacerbating whatever problem she is having. She looked decrepit. So is it over? Let's look at some news going into the winter. We're just at the start of the winter, 2022, 2023. All right, it's just begun. 3 years after the start of COVID-19. And we're asking ourselves, is it over? Well, let's analyze the news rhetoric. China's cities battle first wave of COVID surge as wider spread looms. China's COVID infections hit record as economic outlook darkens. Okay, that was around Thanksgiving. Same time period as 3 years ago, right? Same time period as 3 years ago when this show began. COVID spreading faster than ever in China. This was December 15th. 800 million could be infected this winter. Spreading faster than ever. I wonder why. What's this one say? COVID-19 is about to explode in China. What that could mean for the United States. Wow. New COVID model predicts over 1 million deaths in China through 2023. Is it over, guys? Is it over? Because they're predicting 1 million deaths. Hospitals in 4 states report rises in severe strep A infections among children. CDC urges the public to wear, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But it's the CDC. But it's the CDC. They must know what they're talking about. When you guys say that, I want you to think now of this story. The Korean cruise ship tragedy. I'll let you watch this on your own time, but the Cliff Notes version is this cruise ship was carrying a whole bunch of students, and it begins to sink slowly, like seriously, agonizingly slowly. And all the students listen to the authority figures. The authority figures on the ship are radioing back to administrators on land, and the administrators on land, aka the CDC, just don't know anything, all right, because they're just a whole bunch of Karens working their 9-to-5 office jobs. They're people, a whole bunch of uneducated people. And so, orders come from top down, right? Boom, boom, boom. The students are told to just sit there. Sit there. inside the ship as it's tipping over. Stay still. I know we're going sideways. But just, you're safe. You're safe right here. Do what I say. You're safe. Don't worry. We're inside the ship. The water's outside the ship. Don't worry. I know we're going sideways, but we're inside. We're inside, and the water is outside. So we're going to stay inside. But what about going to the upper deck? No, you just got to stay right here. Stay put inside. Stay put. But I know how to swim. Yeah, but you can drown. But we're definitely going to drown. At least out there I have a chance. Well, they said it's in the rules. I don't know. They said don't do it. It's in the rules. There's a rule book. The administrators, they looked at the rule book and they said, liability. Just stay put. We'll get back to you with more information. I have to make some more phone calls. Let's see if we could override this, but I have to call my boss. So just I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But the boat's sinking. You said it's sinking really slowly, right? Well, yeah. Oh, cool. We have plenty of time. The moral of the story is the ones who listened to their instincts and jumped ship, they survived. The ones that stayed put and followed orders that were passed on to perceived authority figures by office administrators, they died. They know what they're talking about. CDC urges the public to wear face masks indoors as triple-demic surges. Worst thing you could do. They just told you to do the worst thing. The CDC. I just want to remind you guys, we didn't elect them. We didn't elect the CDC. I didn't vote them in to tell me what to do. And they get our tax dollars, dude. Unbelievable. Virus death toll in China's capital shows further rise. This is just the beginning of winter, guys. And the CDC is recommending masks indoors. In COVID-hit Beijing, funeral homes and crematoriums are busy. U.S. State Department says toll of COVID in China are a concern for the world. China COVID deaths probably running above 5,000 per day. China changes definition of COVID deaths as cases surge. Hearses queue at Beijing crematorium, even as China reports no new COVID deaths. Huh, that's strange. The public health organization that forecast 1 million COVID deaths in China says a triple-demic could push the death toll even higher. Former FDA commissioner concerned COVID-19 variants in China could become dominant in the U.S. Deadly infections are killing people. Here are some symptoms of strep A and more. Merry Christmas. U.S. public health officials brace for possible COVID-19 surge after holidays. Leaked notes from Chinese health officials estimates 250 million COVID-19 infections in December. Wow, that's a lot, guys. Harrowing vids show lines of coffins and body bag queues amid China's COVID mega tsunami as 5,000 die a day. Dr. Fauci, a new, more dangerous COVID variant could emerge this winter. Doctors speak out as children's hospitals fill up due to early surge
of respiratory illnesses. A new cholera outbreak is killing hundreds in Haiti. Oh, cholera, that sounds terrible. China COVID deaths accelerate to 9,000 a day. Multiple Massachusetts colleges extend mask mandates indefinitely. All right, wow. Look at this one. My new faculty headshot is in, and I love it. Oh my goodness. She hashtagged indigenous. This person looks familiar. I've seen this person before. I've seen this person before. Where have I seen this person before? That's right. Dr. Killamoff. Dr. Killamoff from Toxic Crusaders. Yes. Oh my gosh. Dr. Killamoff. Yes, it's you. The indigenous queer virtue signaler. Yes. Yes, Dr. Killamoff. Oh my goodness, dude. I used to watch your show, dude. You were the bad guy. If it weren't for you, there would have been no show at all. Thank you. All right, let's go back to some more news stories. U.S. extending COVID public health emergency through spring 2023. Canada is seriously bringing back masks. Majority of Canadians support return of face masks in indoor public spaces if deemed necessary. Measles now an imminent global threat due to pandemic. Fauci isn't just worried about a wave of infections as China reopens. He sees a risk in a whole new wave of mutant variants. Respiratory illness on the rise as New Year approaches. Strep infections in children that can result in flesh-eating disease becomes concern. Wow, that is pretty terrifying. Nearly half of passengers from China to Milan have COVID. Okay, and so we ask again, is it over? No. No, it's never going to be over until we take off the masks. Masks are biohazardous by definition. Now, if we go over to the OSHA hierarchy of safety and controls, right? The most effective thing we can do is eliminate the hazard. You eliminate the hazard. Physically remove the hazard. What's the hazard? This is the hazard. It's not PPE. You can maybe make the argument that N95s are PPE for professionals. I'll give you that. But this face mask on layman is a biohazard. Biohazard. We must eliminate, physically remove the hazard. It's the most effective thing we can do. Look, I don't want to ever have to say I told you so. I will get no satisfaction from that because if I say I told you so, that means millions of people have died. I'm trying to get this message out there before that happens so I don't have to say that. Why do you think I want to be right about this? I don't. I'd rather be wrong. Please prove me wrong. I'm not trying to say told you so. I'm not trying to say told you so, guys. But I told you so. That X right there is the mask mandate, and it exacerbated disease. Here's my call to action. Share. It's number one, share. Get these printed out on business cards. Put them on some business cards and hand them out to people wearing face masks. Hand them out to your employers. Hand them out to your schools. Hand them out to everybody. We just need to share this. But mainly random people on the street that you see wearing face masks. So share the message. The colorful card for the kids, the black and white for the adults. Number 2, sue. That will literally get them to stop when they realize, damn, this is hurting my pocketbooks. This is holding me up in court. This is really a wrench in my whole business or whatever it is. Sue your employer. Sue your children's schools. This is negligent. You could sue for negligence. You could sue for these things. Sue. Please use this QR code, buy the course, start learning. I was denied medical care. I went to go get looked at. I had insurance and everything at the time, and I was rejected because I wasn't wearing my face mask properly. Are you kidding me? You're a secretary, with all due respect. I don't really want to sue, but I'm going to. Join me in this battle. It's not over. It's not over, guys. I knew a while ago it wasn't going to be over unless we punch back. You can't let bullies bully you. You got to punch them back.
Even if you don't think you have much of a case, try. Get your feet wet. Just go in expecting to lose. Because even if you lose, you still learn. There's still a lesson in loss. The best lesson you can get is be more ready next time. It's preparing you. Look, you might lose, I might lose. Don't care, dude. I really don't care. As long as the message gets delivered. Let's make them think twice before messing with us again. Help me hold the line, man. Help me hold the line. Big Chinese tsunami coming. Help me hold the line.
Lastly, the easiest thing we could all do is just never comply. Just say no. Just say no, dude. I dare you. I dare you to. Remember that? Dare? I dare you to just say no.
And in case I haven't been crystal clear, wash your hands and don't touch the area on your face known as the triangle of death. By wearing the face mask, you put yourself in grave danger because of fomite transmission. Because every time you touch your face mask, which whether you would like to admit it or not, you do. I know you don't follow all the rules. I know every time you touch your face mask, you don't get a partner to help you take it off and dispose of it and then sanitize and then put a fresh, brand new, clean one on every time by the ear loops. Not only are you putting yourself at risk by wearing a face mask, but you're also spreading your germs at a much higher rate than the people who are not wearing face masks. And when contagion is exponential, well, you're being ignorant and negligent, and you could actually harm other people. Yes, mask wearers are the super spreaders. One last time, people who wear masks are the super spreaders. And 99% of the time, mask wearers are the bad guys in the movie. About 99.999% of the time, it's the person behind the mask that's the bad guy. Like Dr. Killamoff. And if you want to be eligible for the surprise prize, don't forget to submit your worksheets. Until next time.